Welcome to Culture Coach, a podcast with me, Nikki Lerner, helping you to engage in a proactive movement towards unity and understanding as it relates to culture and come from. Thanks for joining me today. You ready to go? Let's get started. I am delighted to be able to share another friend, another colleague with you today. Thank you so much for listening. I want to introduce you to my friend, Shermain Melton. Shermain is a friend and a colleague of mine that I just met actually not too long ago. And I am just so intrigued by who this man is. I am intrigued by his story, and I really wanted to share that with you today. Shermain describes himself as Black, gay, and Christian. And here's why I'm sharing this with you today on the Culture Coach podcast. And that is because you have Shermain in your organization. You have Shermain in your business. You have Shermain in your faith community. You have Shermain in your neighborhood. You have Shermain everywhere. And if you and I are going to continue to get better as multicultural leaders, we need to know how to work with, how to serve, and how to make space for a guy like Shermain. So there will be a section of this where we talk a lot about faith community, because it's very important for those of you to know whether you follow a particular faith or not, or whether you are a faith leader, that Shermain gives us a generous look into what it's like to be him in that space. So don't let that creep you out. I ask you to just kind of hang with it, particularly if you are a leader of faith, to help you expand how you are thinking about the people that may be right in front of you. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my friend, Shermain Melton. So hi, Shermain.
Hello, Nikki. Good to be here. It's good to be here with you.
Oh, I'm delighted that you have graced the entrance of the Culture Coach podcast. So thanks for time today. So who knows where we'll end up?
Yes.
That's really fine. But where I want to start is I just want to ask you, if I were to meet you for the first time, what would you tell me about you, Shermain? How do you describe yourself in the world? Who are you?
Yes. That's such a big question. And my answer today is way different than it probably would have been, 5 years ago. But I'm Shermain Melton. So I'm Black, I'm gay, and I'm Christian. And it took me a long time to come to grips with saying those three things together. And let's see, in addition, I'm this confident, bold, kind of authentic force of love. I'm calm in the midst of chaos. I bring this sense of calmness wherever I go. And yeah, all of those are little bits of who I am. Professionally, I'm an executive coach now, but yes, those are all some of the little bits of who I am, Nikki. Yes.
So what was some of the process or some of the thoughts around you getting to this space where you feel really good when you're able to say Black, gay, and Christian?
Yes. Ooh.
How'd you get there?
Oh, thank you so much. That's a great question. I don't know if I'm there yet. I think it's each time I put the three together and say them out loud, it's less cringeworthy for me. But how I got there is, I grew up in the church, and my parents, every Sunday we went to church, and I learned at a very young age that being gay and being Christian was not good. And so I hid the fact that I was gay for over 24 years. And
that's a long time, man.
That is a long time. That is a long time. I was so afraid. I was so afraid of my secret being out. I was even more afraid of the people that I loved turning their backs on me. Saying that, hey, we used to love you, but not anymore. Not now. Now that we know this about you, we
Mhm.
don't love you anymore. And I was so afraid of that. You see,
Mm.
I grew up in a family, in a large family. I have 7 siblings, and I grew up feeling like just a number. So even though there were lots of people always around me, I felt alone. And so I didn't want to bring more aloneness to myself. And so I hid that. I hid that part of me.
Wow. How how do you hide that part of who you are? And
Ooh,
I say that, let me explain how I'm asking that question.
sure.
For those of us that are part of the majority culture, if you will, of being straight people,
Mhm.
we have the luxury of, growing up and existing in the world and not having to hide the fact that we're heterosexual,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So when you say, um, and even thinking of friends of mine that have had to hide
Mhm.
a very important part of the expression of who you are, right? And how you are in the world.
Mhm.
How might you explain how you hide to
Mm.
someone that is heterosexual and doesn't really understand what that means or what it looks like?
Yes. Some of the ways I hid, were, so it was really around trying to trying to, be like everyone else, right? Trying to be how, I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be, a part of. And so I thought that I had to do all the quote unquote normal things. And so one of the ways I hid was by doing the quote unquote normal things. And so I had a girlfriend. I even ended up getting engaged to her. Um, when things were getting really close, I figured out how to sabotage things so that I didn't have to go through with that. And I also hid by the way that I looked, the way that my appearance. I in high school was trying to do whatever I could to keep my shields up. And so there was a part of my life where I shaved my head and I walked around campus. I walked around high school just looking mean and unapproachable, and just like don't talk to me, sort of vibe. And it kind of worked. It kind of worked. But those were some of the ways that I hid. It was kind of don't look at me, don't try to get close to me, that sort of vibe, because I didn't want my secret to be out. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think even for people that are listening, that you don't have to come from someone else's cultural experience in order to have a sense of an understanding of what it's like to hide, right? So
Hmm.
even when you're saying those things, and here's what I did, I don't have to be a gay person to like listen to what you're saying, like because there are other ways, for me and other people, that we hide,
Yep.
right? We hide who we are,
Yep.
particularly in certain settings, whether that be at work, whether that be in our faith communities, whether that be, in a book club, we're in,
Yep.
whatever it is, whenever we don't feel welcomed and safe,
Yep.
right? Or unsure that we can be who we are. We all know what it looks like to hide
Yep.
some part of ourself.
Yes.
That's really
Yes.
interesting. Thank you for that.
You're
Mm.
welcome.
So, what is it like to be you,
Mm.
Shermain, being Black, gay, and Christian?
Yes. Whew.
And I say that to say, as I mentioned earlier, um, you are everywhere, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and to those of you listening, Shermain is in your business. Shermain is in your organization. Shermain is your next door neighbor. And as we are growing to be better multicultural leaders, those who know how to lead cross culturally and provide inclusive belonging spaces for all kinds of people, Shermain, that's really where my question comes from,
Hmm.
is what's it like to be you? uh, what do you care about?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think I'll start off, Nikki, and talk about the me in the corporate space. When I was in the corporate space, I'm now an executive coach, but before that I was a corporate leader for over 20 years. And let's see, me in the corporate space, I was a high performer. I'm more introverted. I have a preference towards more introversion. So I was more quiet. I was quieter. But when I spoke up, it had power. I had powerful things to say. Um, and I didn't speak just to say things. It was, if I spoke, it was there was a reason, it was important. And but other than that, I worked in the shadows. I didn't lead from the front, I led from the back. And so people really got a lot of value when they sat down and spent time with me, because I was always there for people. If somebody came to me and needed help, needed assistance, needed guidance, I was on it. I would get them what they needed. And so I was yes, I was in the back leading, and people knew my work, and they knew that what I was about. And but the let's see, the leaders that were one or two levels up, they may not know that, but the people, my people knew it, and the people who worked with me knew it. So if there are any leaders out there who I guess the one thing I would say to leaders is, look at your people, look at your performers who don't necessarily make a lot of noise.
Mm,
Look at your people who are the quiet. You label them as quiet.
mm,
Those might be might be your Shermains.
mm.
Might be your Shermains. Yes. Yes.
Boy, that
Um,
I love that. I love, love, love what you just said. That charge for leaders. That's really good.
yeah.
What do you need,
Mm,
in the spaces that you found yourself in?
yes. Yes.
What did you need?
Yes.
And what do you need?
Love it. Love it. What did I need and what do I need? So if I go back in the corporate space, what I really needed and wanted was to actually be seen. I wanted to be seen um deeply by my leader, seen and understood. Now
Mm,
that doesn't mean that I wanted my leader to do my work for me. It doesn't mean that I wanted, an easy way out or any of that kind of stuff. No, I wanted to be connected. I wanted to be within a team that where I felt safe, where I felt seen, where I felt understood, where I felt like I mattered and my voice mattered, where I felt like my leader was championing me
mhm,
to his or her leaders. My leader was championing me upward
mhm.
and talking about me upward, and knowing that my leader actually has had my back to that degree. That's what I really wanted when I was in the corporate space, is to be seen on that level.
So safe, what I'm hearing you say, I think, safe and seen for
Hmm.
you in that space was, you know, tell people about the good work I'm doing, right?
Yes.
Tell people about how I'm a great team player.
Yep.
Tell people about how you see leadership gifts in me. Like
Yep.
there's this communication around what do you see in me and then speak about it.
Yes, definitely. Because uh, let's see, I I tried to influence within my circle. And if, for example, I didn't have maybe influence two or three levels up in that time, in that particular time, I needed my leader to do his or her part. And
Mhm.
so, yes. So yes.
Yeah, I think that's really key learning, right? And a lot of people I hear something similar from, which is if you exist in a space where you don't have a voice because you happen to be part of a minority culture, or even depending on what your title is, right? I mean, that's a diverse group of people that feel
Hmm.
like they have no voice because of their title or lack
Hmm.
of title, right? The way to make people feel seen and safe and heard is to for other people who have space to use their voice, to communicate about the good work that you're doing.
Yes. Yes. Communicate it, yeah, shine that light.
Yeah.
Shine that light, because people may not know. Well, they probably do not know. So I feel it's an obligation of the leader to bring awareness as to what their teams are doing, and highlight their people. Hmm.
One of the things that I oftentimes share with our listeners here on the podcast, but also with clients that I'm working with every week, is in this area of culture work. That's my term for it, culture work,
Okay.
diversity work, whatever people call it in their atmosphere, right? That I have found that people tend to look at this idea of diversity, and add all of the identity markers, whatever that is, into it, and then equate them all.
Mm,
Right. I like to tell my clients that, diversity is a huge umbrella, right? And in that umbrella, you've got all these different spokes, right, that happen. And while they all exist under the same umbrella, we need to treat all of those things individually
mm,
because they have different goals, and therefore they have a different strategy. And so one of the things I love about how you began describing yourself, right, is Black, gay, and Christian, right? To me, when you say that, that is a very unique mix of things, right? And so for leaders to equate um all of these markers as the same thing is actually to do a disservice to people in the organization, right? Because what you
mhm.
may need, tell me if I'm right, what you may need in this part of you that is a Black man may be different from what you need as a gay man.
Yep.
What might be different than what you need as a Christian man,
Mhm.
right? And then maybe it's different what you need as a Black Christian,
Exactly.
and
Yep.
then what you need
Yep.
as a Christian gay man, right?
Yep.
Like all these things, right? So can you describe a little bit for people maybe that don't even may not come from any part of those cultures, Black, gay, or Christian? When you're in an environment, whether that be at work or at church, um, what is it that you think people need to know
Mm,
that might be blind spots, or something that you experience that you're like, this keeps happening. People need to know
mm.
this thing. What are a couple of things that
Ooh,
you help people
that
with?
yeah, that's so great, Nikki. Because you're right, it is so complex. Black, gay, gay, Christian, Christian, Black. Like there's so much. Um, um, I want to tell a story, a quick little story. I changed churches, and I went. So the church that I'm a part of, I won't mention the church. Um, the first thing I did is I met with the pastor. And I said, "Hey, Pastor, I'm Shermain. I'm I'm Black, I'm gay, and I'm Christian, and I want to be of service to the church." And he said, "Well, basically, thanks for letting us know. Now that we know that you're gay, you can't do these things over here,
Yeah.
but you can do these things over here. You can, if you want, you can serve food, you can clean the parking lot, you can serve on our security detail, but anything that deals with like being a deacon or handling money or anything like that, sorry, you can't do that." And
And essentially, don't speak to anybody, don't be in front of anybody, and certainly don't lead anything.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Can you can you because I know that there are people who are people of faith that listen to
mm-hmm,
me. Can you just describe what that feels like
mm,
when you're given that message?
yes. What it feels like is sort of like I'm a second class citizen. It really interesting to me because from my experience, churches are supposed to be a place of love, a place where people are accepted for being who they are, and allowed to serve because of who they are, because we're all human, we're perfectly imperfect, in my opinion. And so it felt like I was a second class citizen. I was maybe even being discriminated against because I was myself. And then I thought, I wonder how many people in the church, maybe not my church, but in the church in general, are hiding. They don't mention who they are, because they know that a form of discrimination or will occur if they decide to actually be themselves. And so, yes, so for me, it felt yeah, I felt like a second class citizen, like I was less than,
Mm.
like I was not enough. And yeah, those are the thoughts. Those are the thoughts that came up.
So what did you do with that? Like you're sitting with this person,
Yep.
right? You're like, I'm excited to be here. I want to be a part of this faith community. And they're like, yes and no.
Yes.
How do you respond to that? Do you just freeze in the
Yeah.
moment? Do you just like slam the door and you walk out? Like what happens after that?
To be completely honest, I was not surprised.
Mm,
That was one of the, growing up in the church, I was not surprised at all. It was,
mm,
yes. So I was not surprised. I was actually prepared for that outcome. And I actually decided that, hey, I don't want to clean parking lots, or, I don't want to do the other stuff. I want to be able to be of service in the way that I want to be of service. And so in that moment, I basically said, well, you know what? I'll be of service in another way. I'll be of service. Maybe it won't be here at this church, but I'll be of service how I want to be of service somewhere else. And so that it was the internal kind of conversation that happened with me. Yep. From that moment. Yeah. Yeah.
let me just say, I am so sorry uh that you had to be in that environment. Um and it makes me sad that that was the expectation.
Thank you. And
I
with
mean, it's real,
mhm,
and it just makes me sad,
yeah.
that particularly in faith communities, that it is yes to some and no to others.
Mhm,
I remember, uh, because I have a faith community background as well. I guess I could be Black, straight, and Christian.
mhm.
Um, but just remembering, there was a time in our history where I couldn't be married to my husband,
Mm,
who's white American. And during that time, and even still now, right, there are communities of faith and churches, institutions all over the place that still don't believe that people should marry interracially,
mhm,
right? And churches and faith leaders believe this for a very long time.
mhm,
And it took them a really long time to come around. And I have a feeling that we're in that same space, right? Where it is going to take so many churches and so many faith leaders forever to come around
mhm,
to the fact that we live in, right now we're recording this 2023,
mhm,
right? And that things need to change, and their views need to expand
mhm.
around the kinds of people that are in their church. Because we say, come as you are, but we don't really mean it.
No, we don't mean it. We say come as you are, as long as you're like this.
That's
As long
right.
as you are like this and
That's
these
right.
labels, but don't come as you are if you're like this.
That's right. We're like, come as you are, and we'll tell you how you are, and then please, all are welcome. Right. Yeah, I remember for me, my faith journey, I started walking with God at 13. And I remember even just being a woman, right? I gone from really no faith at all right? No sense of it to, oh my gosh, now I've got this sense of faith and belonging and meaning and all these things. And then when I started to get into church environments, which I hadn't been in before, I had gone from you can do anything as a person to, yeah, but if you're a woman, here's the
Mm,
list, right?
mm,
And thankfully, I was in an environment that for the most part, um, I never felt stunted
mm.
as a woman leader, right? I
Yes.
most of it was just because I think my personality, I was just like, well, ain't nobody can tell me what I can't do.
Mhm.
You know, I'm gonna do it, and then you figure it out on the other end, right? Um, but even for me to be in an environment that would even fan the flame at any level of here are the things that women can't do, and you can
Mhm.
only not do these things because you're a girl. Like
Yeah.
that's it. And I used to tell people, I'd say, tell me I'm awful. Tell me I'm a jerk. Tell me that I don't lead well. Tell me I'm awful, but don't tell me I can't do something because I'm a girl,
Right.
right? And it's probably the same thing,
Mhm.
tell me I'm a bad leader, but don't tell me I can't do something just because I'm gay,
Exactly.
right?
And exactly. And a message I would love to convey is that from my experience, being gay is not a choice.
Mhm.
In the third grade is when I learned that I had this attraction. And I didn't sit there in the third grade and say, you know what? I want to make my life more difficult. I want to go against all of the norms of my faith, and I want to make my life harder. I want to, that's what I'd love to do. And so I want people to know that it is not a choice. At least it wasn't for me. I didn't wake up one day and make this decision. So yeah.
Mm.
Mm, mm.
If there was one thing, well, not one, I don't want to boil it down to one,
All right.
but let me ask you this way. What is your most important message?
My most important message
Yeah.
is to be more authentic. Be more you. Whatever that means for you.
Mm.
Be more of it. Um, Maybe ask yourself that question. How can I be more me today? And allow that there's, in my opinion, from my experience, there's freedom on the other side. When you can let go of who you think you should be, or who your parents think you should be, or your teachers, or whoever else out there thinks you should be, and strive to be more you, strive to understand who you are and what brings you joy and what makes you happy, and be more of that, then then I think everything will change. Everything will change for you. At least it'll go in the right direction when you can be more you each day.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think that is so important for my listeners and my clients I know who are listening to this as well, um, to remember because in the work that they are trying to do at becoming multicultural leaders, that what is necessary is not less and less of them, right? What is required actually is just an authenticity, even
Mhm.
while they are learning, even while
Yes.
they are growing, to lean into who am I? Where are some of the places that I might need some awareness or some
Mhm.
growth or some
Mhm.
learning, but to still show up fully who I am? That's really the best way that I can lead and actually where I'll find my most courage, my most confidence, all of those things. And so I think that that is a beautiful message,
Yes.
um, for the people that listen.
Yes.
Um,
And Nikki, in addition to being more of themselves, to allow their people to be more themselves. You
mm,
see, when you can be more you, you can have these one-on-one conversations with your people and create spaces where they can be more them. And if you want to become more culturally aware, cross-culturally better, you gotta create that safety for your folks, because when they feel seen, when they feel heard, when they feel like they matter, when they feel like their leaders got their back, their shields will come down, and they will really they'll help you grow. They'll help you become more cross-culturally aware. But you have to be willing to be more authentic and be vulnerable and create that space for them to do the same.
Mm, that's awesome. Shermain, thank you. Thank you for the generosity of who you are in sharing who you are. You don't have to, but you've chosen to.
Yes.
And thank you for that. I just want to honor you for that. Tell the good people where they can find more of who you are, what you do. If somebody wants to work with you as a coach, where do they find you?
Yes, Nikki. And so I'm so honored to be here. So thank you. And the good people out there can find me at shermainmelton.com. That's my website. And there's lots of information there about who I am, what I do, and how to work with me.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, Shermain.
Yes. You're welcome. Thank you.
See ya.
Hey, thanks again so much for listening. I wanted to create a space each week where you and I can learn about different cultures and come-froms in a safe, non-threatening, non-embarrassing environment. I hope you enjoy this podcast. For more creative resources and ideas, you can engage with me at Nikki Lerner